Yo, thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. It's another day. It's 4:31 p.m. Pacific time. It's March 19th, 2026. Hope you're having a good day. Let's begin. The latest Pentagon seeks $200 billion in additional funding for the Iran war. AP source says Iran intensified its attacks on oil and gas facilities around the Gulf on Thursday in retaliation for an Israeli attack on a key Iranian gas field, dramatically raising the stakes in a war that is sending shockwaves through the global economy. Fuel prices soared around the world. The direct attacks on energy infrastructure mark a major escalation in the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran. One think tank said Israel's targeting of South Pars, the Iranian part of the world's largest gas field, aimed to inflict more pressure on the Iranian government by making living conditions for its civilians intolerable. Iran responded by hitting a Saudi refinery on the Red Sea and setting Qatari liquefied natural gas facilities and two Kuwaiti oil refineries ablaze. U.S. President Donald Trump warned on social media that the U.S. would retaliate and massively blow up the entirety of Iran's gas field if it continues. The Pentagon, meanwhile, asked the White House for another $200 billion to carry out the war, a senior administration official said. Brent crude oil, the international standard, spiked to as high as $118 a barrel, up more than 60% since Israel and the United States started the war February 28. With strikes on Iran, the war's latest developments now threaten long-term disruptions to the global energy supply. Here's the latest. Pentagon seeks another $200 billion for the Iran war, AP source says. The department sent the request to the White House, according to the senior administration official who spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss the private information. The $200 billion is an extraordinarily high number and comes on top of extra funding the Defense Department already received last year in Trump's big tax cuts bill. Congress is bracing for a new spending request, but it is not clear the White House has transmitted the request for consideration. It is unclear whether the spending request would have support. Journalists wounded on air while reporting on Israel's war with Hezbollah. The two journalists were likely wounded in a strike while reporting in southern Lebanon near the coastal city of Tyre. Stephen Sweeney, correspondent of state-run Russia Today, was giving a broadcast on Israel's targeting on infrastructure during its war against the Hezbollah militant group. Cameraman Ali Reda Zebedi was also wounded. In a video widely circulated on social media, the strike apparently fell just meters away from Sweeney while he was speaking on camera. He was taken to the hospital in Tyre for shrapnel wounds in his arm, and Zebedi also was treated for light injuries. The circumstances of the strike were unclear. Russia Today did not issue an immediate statement. Hexen said U.S. taking countermeasures to help Iranians get information. Without giving details, the defense secretary said the U.S. was working to ensure that the messaging is delivered not just to the Iranian people with large, but to the right audiences, certain audiences that need to hear certain things about what their fate might look like or what their choices are. An internet blackout imposed by the government in Tehran has stifled almost all communications from the country, making it nearly impossible to reliably survey Iranian perspectives on the escalating conflict. Their own people can barely receive a lot of those messages and communicate because of the blackout that they've imposed upon them, as it said. But we work around that for sure. Kane says U.S. military hit more than 90 targets on Iran's Karg Island. General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, says American forces struck more than 90 targets on Karg Island, which is vital to Iran's oil network. Kane said the U.S. targets included all of the island's military-only infrastructure, such as air defenses a naval base, and mine storage facilities. Trump said a few days ago that the U.S. military had totally obliterated the island's military assets. He has warned that if Iran or anyone else interferes with the ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz, he will reconsider his decision not to target oil infrastructure. SS says all 11 of Iran's submarines are gone, saying that Iran's surface fleet is no longer a factor. Hesed also said that the submarines they once had 11 are gone. The craft, Hesed referenced, are midget submarines designed to work in shallow waters in the Persian Gulf and in its narrow mouth, the Strait of Hormuz. The small vessels are designed to evade sonar as they lay mines and fire torpedoes. Hesed opens Pentagon briefing with remarks about the dignified transfer. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says he told families of service members killed in the Iran war that U.S. forces will finish this. Hegseth said they told him through tears, through hugs, through strength, and through unbreakable resolve that they wanted the U.S. military to finish this. Honor their sacrifice. Do not waver, do not stop until the job is done. My response, along with that of the president, was simple. Of course, we will finish this. We will honor their sacrifice, as it said. Their sacrifice only steals our commitment. Pregnant woman among 4 killed in Iranian missile attack on the West Bank. The Palestinian Health Ministry said earlier that 3 women were killed and 3 others, including a child, were wounded in the overnight attack. It says a 4th person, a 32-year-old pregnant woman, has died. The fatalities were the first in the occupied West Bank during the Iran war. Russia's nuclear chief says no one will escape radiation if Iran's nuclear reactor is hit. The head of Russia's state nuclear corporation, Rosatom, on Thursday urged the U.S. and Israel to make sure they do not hit Iran's Russia-built nuclear power plant. Alexei Ligachev warned that not a single party to the conflict will escape the impact of radiation if there is a serious accident. He had previously reported that a strike on Tuesday hit the territory of the plant near the building of meteorology service close to the operating nuclear reactor, causing no injuries or damage. Ligachev said that Rosatom had evacuated some of its personnel in Bushehr and is planning to pull out most of 480 people left there, leaving just a few dozen to operate the plant. Shell says it is assessing damage, and Qatar energy firm Shell plc says it is assessing the damage after Iran launched attacks on Qatar. Shell said it was looking at the damage at the Pearl gas to liquids plant at the Ras Laffan liquefied natural gas facility after it was hit by Iranian missiles. It said all staff on site are safe after the attack. We're currently assessing any potential damage to Pearl DTL and working with Qatar Energy and relevant authorities to understand the damage to the wider Ras Laffan industrial city facilities, it said. French president condemns reckless escalation. Emmanuel Macron has also called for a truce as the Middle East enters a religious holiday at the end of the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. The fighting should stop for a few days to try to give negotiations another chance, Macron said in Brussels ahead of a meeting of European Union leaders. He said France is pushing for a moratorium on attacks against civilians and civilian infrastructure. German leader says weapons must fall silent before he would commit to any Mid-East mission. Chancellor Friedrich Merz is underlining his insistence that the war must end before his country can help with matters such as keeping shipping lanes clear. Merz said Thursday that we can and will commit ourselves only when the weapons fall silent. He added that we can then do a great deal as far as opening sea lanes and keeping them clear, but we're not doing it during ongoing combat operations. He said an international mandate that doesn't yet exist also would be needed, and there are still many steps ahead of us before we can even consider such issue. 4 Palestinians killed in Gaza City. 2 separate Israeli strikes have killed 4 Palestinians early Thursday in Gaza City, a health official in the Shifa medical complex told the AP. The first strike killed 2 in the Zaytoun area, and the second strike killed 2 others in the Tufa area of Gaza City, said Rami Mana, Managing director of Shifa Hospital, where the casualties arrived, Israel's military did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The Gaza Strip has seen nearly daily Israeli fire and strikes since the start of the latest war in the Middle East nearly 3 weeks ago. More than 72,200 Palestinians have been killed in the war sparked by Hamas' October 7, 2023 attack into Israel, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Arab League chief condemns Iranian attacks on gas facility in Qatar. Arab League Secretary General Ahmad Abul Gheit has condemned what he described as a flagrant Iranian attack on a major gas facility in Ras Laffan industrial city in Qatar. He also condemned Iran's attacks on Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates on Wednesday and warned against the dangerous escalation caused by targeting oil and gas facilities in the Gulf. According to a statement released early Thursday, the Arab League chief reiterated full support to Gulf nations in all measures they undertake to confront these malicious Iranian attacks and their right to safeguard the security of their citizens and the integrity of their facilities. Sirens sound in Jerusalem and other parts of central Israel. For the second time in an hour, Israel has warned of an upcoming attack from Iran. It is the eighth salvo of missiles launched on Israel so far on Thursday in one of the most intense days of Iranian fire on the county. Egypt Foreign Minister calls for Iran to halt attacks. Egyptian Foreign Minister Bad Abadi has called for Iran to end attacks in the region. During a meeting of foreign ministers Thursday, Abadi and his regional and Arab counterparts expressed solidarity with countries impacted by Iran's threats. They condemned Iranian attacks on civilian and energy infrastructure in Gulf nations, calling them unjustifiable violations that immediately need to stop. Austrian Chancellor says Europe will not be blackmailed into fight. Austrian Chancellor Christian Stocker said Europe will not be blackmailed into the U.S. and Israeli military campaign in the Middle East. Europe and Austria as well will not allow itself to be blackmailed, he said Thursday in Brussels. Intervention in the Strait of Hormuz is not an option for Austria anyway. Stocker called for the stabilization of the supply and prices of energy following the blockage of the Strait of Hormuz. China criticizes Israel over attack authorizations. China says it's shocked at reports that Israel authorized the killing of senior Iranian and Hezbollah figures without case-by-case approval, a foreign ministry spokesperson said Thursday in Beijing. We have been opposed to the use of force in international relations, and the killing of Iran's national leaders and attacks on civilian targets are even more unacceptable, spokesperson Lin Yan said. China urges all parties involved to immediately cease military operations and prevent the regional conflict from spiraling out of control, he said. Cathay Pacific suspends Dubai and Riyadh flights through April. Cathay Pacific says it is further suspending its flights to Dubai and the Saudi capital Riyadh until the end of April. The Hong Kong-based airline attributed the suspensions to the developing situation in the Middle East. It is one of several long-haul carriers outside the Middle East that have temporarily stopped serving the region due to the conflict. Saudi Arabia says drone hit the country's Samref refinery. Saudi Arabia said a drone hit the country's Samref refinery in the port city of Yanbu on the Red Sea on Thursday. The Saudi Defense Ministry announced the news, saying without elaborating that damage assessment is underway. The strike comes as drones also hit two oil refineries in Kuwait. Overnight Iranian attacks hit natural gas sites in Qatar and the United Arab Emirates, spiking global prices. Iran is retaliating over an Israeli strike Wednesday on its South Pars natural gas field in the Persian Gulf that it shares with Qatar. Samref is a joint venture between the kingdom's oil giant Saudi Aramco and ExxonMobil that processes more than 400,000 barrels per day of Arabian light crude oil. Global oil and natural gas prices soar. Global oil and natural gas prices soared Wednesday after Iran attacked a key natural gas facility in Qatar that can supply 1/5 of the world's gas and two oil refineries in Kuwait. The attacks raised fear that the global energy crisis triggered by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz to tanker traffic would be longer and more extensive than feared, with lasting damage to oil and gas productions. International benchmark Brent crude rose to near $114 per barrel, up from under $73 per barrel on the eve of the war. The European TTF benchmark for natural gas prices traded 24% higher on Thursday. Kuwait says a second oil refinery ablaze after drone attack. Kuwait said a drone attack set a second oil refinery ablaze in the small oil-rich nation on Thursday. The blaze hit the Mina Abdullah refinery. The nearby Mina Al Amadi refinery earlier caught fire after a drone attack. Saudi air defenses destroyed 6 drones. Saudi Arabia says its air defense have intercepted and droned 6 drones in Riyadh and the eastern province. Kuwait says drone attack targeting oil refinery sparked a fire. Kuwait said Thursday a drone attack sparked a fire at an oil refinery in the small oil-rich nation. The state-run Kuna news agency cited the Kuwait Petroleum Corp for the announcement. It said that the drone attack sparked a fire at the Mina Al Amadi refinery but caused no injuries. The refinery is one of the biggest in the Middle East with a petroleum production capacity of 730,000 barrels per day. Iran announces execution of 3 men detained in January protests. Iran's judiciary announced Thursday execution of 3 men detained in January's nationwide protests, the first such sentence known to have been carried out. Iran's Misan news agency reported the executions and identified the men as Meldi Ghazemi, Saleh Mohammadi, and Saad Davadi. Iran typically carries out the death penalty with hangings. The 3 men allegedly stabbed 2 police officers to death in Qom, some 130 kilometers, 80 miles south of the capital, Tehran, during the protests. Iran's judiciary had been threatening to carry out executions of those arrested in the protests. Iran put down the demonstrations with intense violence that killed thousands of people and saw tens of thousands of others detained. Iran's foreign minister lashes out at Macron. Iran's foreign minister lashed out Thursday at French President Emmanuel Macron over his comments on Tehran attacking Qatar. Macron early Thursday morning wrote he spoke with U.S. President Donald Trump and Qatar's emir over Iran's attack. It is our common interest to implement without delay a moratorium on strikes targeting civilian infrastructure, particularly energy and water supply facilities, Macron wrote on X. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, channeling Trump, called Macron's comments sad. Macron has not uttered one word of condemnation of the Israel-U.S. war on Iran. Araghchi wrote on X, he did not condemn Israel when it blew up fuel storage in Tehran, exposing millions to toxins. His current concern didn't follow Israel's attack on our gas facilities. Satellite images show damage to UAE airbase. Satellite images show damage at Al Dhafra airbase in the United Arab Emirates after repeated Iranian attacks targeting the facility hosting American troops. The images taken Sunday by an Airbus Defense and Space Blades NEO satellite and analyzed by the Associated Press show damage at one set of hangars to the northwest of the facility in Abu Dhabi. Another hangar to the southeast of the facility appears shredded by fire, with an adjacent hangar sustaining roof damage. It's unclear what had been in the hangars. Dhafra had hosted some 2,000 U.S. troops and has served as a major base of operations for everything from armed drones to F-35 stealth fighters in recent years. Ship hit by a projectile off coast of Qatar. A projectile hit a ship off the coast of Qatar on Thursday morning, authorities said. The British military's United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations Center reported the incident of Ras Laffan, an important natural gas supply point which had been repeatedly hit by Iranian fire overnight. The UK MTO said the ship's crew was safe. It wasn't immediately clear if the vessel had been deliberately targeted or potentially struck by falling debris as Qatar fired off missile interceptors at incoming Iranian barrages. South Pars gas crucial for Iran. Attacking Iran's South Pars, a natural gas field which it shares with Qatar in the Persian Gulf, threatens electricity supplies in the Islamic Republic, some 80% of all power generated in Iran comes from natural gas, according to the Paris-based International Energy Agency. It also is used to supply household heating and attacking Iran's subpart natural gas field, with which it shares with Qatar in the Persian Gulf, threatens electricity supplies in the Islamic Republic. Some 80% of all power generated in Iran comes from natural gas, according to the Paris-based International Energy Agency. It also is used to supply household heating and cooking across the Islamic Republic. That is why Iran responded with an aggressive series of attacks targeting gas fields and infrastructure in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. Latest reports of live fire. Mobile phone alerts sounded Thursday morning in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, warning of incoming Iranian missile fire. Kuwait said it shot down Iranian drones incoming to the oil-rich Mid-East nation nearly Thursday morning. Latest reports of live fire. Israel warned the public of another Iranian missile salvo early Thursday morning. Bahrain sounded its missile sirens early Thursday over an incoming Iranian attack. Trump threatens to blow up South Pars gas field if Iran attacks Qatar again. U.S. President Donald Trump pledged Israel would make no more attacks on Iran's major South Pars gas field, but if Iran attacked Qatar again, the U.S. would retaliate and massively blow up the entirety of the field. Trump made his threat on social media Wednesday night as the war roiled global energy markets and Iranian missiles hit Qatar. Trump said in his post that the U.S. knew nothing about the attack, but a person familiar with the matter said earlier Wednesday that the U.S. was informed about Israel's plans to strike the gas field but did not take part. Trump said Qatar was in no way, shape, or form involved in Israel's attacks on Iran's gas field. Unfortunately, Iran did not know this and unjustifiably and unfairly attacked Qatar. I do not want to authorize this level of violence and destruction because of the long-term implications that it will have on the future of Iran, Trump said. Australia's leader condemns reckless Iran reprisals. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has condemned Iran's reckless reprisal attacks in the Middle East. I'm deeply concerned by attacks on civilian and energy infrastructure, including the latest overnight in Qatar. Albanese told reporters forward on Thursday. We do not want to see the conflict escalate further. Qatar says Iran missiles damage more liquefied natural gas sites. Qatar warned Thursday that additional Iranian missile attacks damaged more liquefied natural gas sites in the energy-rich nation, causing sizable fires and extensive further damage. Qatar Energy, the nation's state-owned oil and gas company, announced damage. It said firefighters were working to halt blazes that no one had been heard so far. Qatar is a key source of natural gas to the world's energy markets. It already shut in its production earlier in the war, but extensive damage could delay Qatar in getting its supplies to the market after the Iran war ends. Arab Summit ends with a new call for Iran to end attacks. A summit of Gulf Arab countries and others ended a meeting Thursday with a new unified call for Iran to halt attacks on its neighbors. A statement by the nations at the summit denounced these deliberate Iranian attacks using ballistic missiles and drones which targeted residential areas and civilian infrastructure, including oil facilities, desalination plants, airports, residential buildings, and diplomatic missions. The participants emphasized that these attacks cannot be justified under any pretext or in any way, the statement said. Analyst group calls gas field attack clear expansion of war. A New York-based think tank, the South Fund Center, described Israel's decision to attack the Iranian offshore natural gas field as a clear expansion of the conflict. Unlike old storage depots that can be replenished and rebuilt on a shorter timeline, liquefied natural gas production facilities cannot be easily repaired, especially against a backdrop of war. The center said Thursday extended timelines for repairs are a major blow to Iran's economy. But above all else, they will be felt by Iranian civilians. The center added Israel's target selection in this war has heavily focused on the institution leaders, and infrastructure within Iran that have been used for domestic repression, aiming to shape the conditions ripe for successful anti-regime mobilization by Iranians. It now seeks to inflict additional pressure on the regime by making the living conditions for civilians intolerable. Ship ablaze after attack of UAE. An attack set a ship ablaze early Thursday off the coast of the United Arab Emirates, authorities said. The British military's United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations Center said a vessel has been hit by an unknown projectile, which has resulted in a fire on board. It said the vessel was just off the coast of Khor Fakkan in the UAE, near the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow mouth of the Persian Gulf through which 20% of the world's oil and natural gas typically flows. Over 20 vessels have been attacked during the Iran war so far, as Tehran tries to squeeze shippers as part of its pressure campaign over the conflict. Again, thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, let me know what you think. Follow me on Instagram, the Studio 11. Follow me on X, the Studio 2020. I like to say Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you on the next one.